2 days ago, I uploaded a video responding to a documentary The Guardian released about the Green Line. Apparently, they didn't like it. They filed a copyright claim and had my video taken down. Now, let me be clear. Copyright laws are important. Artists deserve credit and revenues for their work, whether it is music, animation, or film. But some, like The Guardian, use these laws not to protect creativity, but to silence criticism. One of the most beautiful things about YouTube and social media in general is that someone can post a video in India and someone across the world, let's say in Wisconsin, can respond to it. And when you respond to a video, it only makes sense to show the parts you're talking about. There are hundreds of channels that use clips from my videos, some supporting me, some criticizing me. A few of those critical videos have reached hundreds of thousands of views. Sometimes I respond, and sometimes I don't have the time. But I will never file a copyright strike to remove a video that criticizes me. I won't let The Guardian silence my criticism of their attack on Israel. So I'm uploading the video again. This time, instead of showing clips from their video, I will be voicing over their characters myself. But before we get to that, a quick note for those who saw the original video. I often talk about the strange connection between parts of the Western left and the Muslim world. One value they seem to share is a deep discomfort with criticism. What do communist or semi-communist states like North Korea, China, and Russia have in common with Islamic regimes like Iran and Afghanistan? On the surface, they are totally different, but both ban criticism of the government and of religion. And it doesn't matter if it is Muhammad or Mao. Criticism is off limits. And now, Western leftist organizations are adopting that same mentality, whether it is student groups in the US or The Guardian. They don't have the power of governments, but they will shame you, cancel you, and try to silence you. I looked into The Guardian a bit. A few months ago, a respected food and drink journalist named Henry Jeffries wrote about the world's best and most unique whiskeys. But when the article was published in The Guardian, the section about milk and honey, the award-winning Israeli whiskey, was removed. It is not just that they can't handle criticism, they erase you completely. Whenever I post a response to a video, I include a link to the original video in the description or comments, so you can judge for yourself. I will also say that, to me, freedom of speech is more than just criticizing others and allowing others to criticize you. Think about it. Why is Israel so successful while so many of its Muslim neighbors are not? On paper, the Arab countries should be way ahead. Huge populations, shared language and culture, natural resources like oil, and a prime location between East and West. And then there is Israel, tiny, surrounded by enemies, and as Golda Meir famously said, Moses dragged us through the desert for 40 years just to bring us to the only place in the Middle East with no oil. Yet somehow we have succeeded. I believe one key reason is this: freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of thought, the freedom to doubt, to question, to criticize the government, and to do all of that without violence. That, to me, is one of the main reasons Israel has succeeded and the Muslim world has not. And one last thing. The Guardian's video, published 2 weeks ago, already has over 2 million views. I will never match those numbers, unless you help me. So please subscribe, comment, share, and spread the word. Here is the re-uploaded video with voiceovers instead of the clips. Let's make sure The Guardian doesn't get the last word. Matthew Castle, a reporter for The Guardian, started a new series about the Green Line. He didn't invite me to be part of it. I won't lie, I was a bit offended, but then I got over it and decided to join him anyway. Let's begin. Can I ask you a question? We're looking for the Green Line. Do you know where the Green Line is? It doesn't exist. All of Israel is ours. Did the Green Line used to exist? You don't recognize the Green Line? There is no Green Line? God gave us Israel, all of it. Reporting in the Middle East for over 20 years, I've seen the conflict between Israel and Palestinians deepen, shift, and return to the same painful question again and again. In the first 30 seconds, you already get the entire message of the video. The first thing you see is a religious Jew saying, God gave us Israel, all of it. Then you see an Arab man from East Jerusalem eating ice cream with his wife and daughter, while an armed Israeli policewoman stands in the background. That's called framing. They set the tone for the whole video. The religious Jew is portrayed as a messianic fanatic, blind to geopolitical reality, while the Arab is the oppressed victim, just trying to enjoy some ice cream with his family, holding them close as if to protect them from the threatening policewoman behind him. In a minute, I will dive into the video and debunk it with you. But let's start with what matters most, the framing, the narrative. I picked at the Guardian's YouTube channel. I saw lots of videos critical of Israel. The imprisoned Israelis refusing military service in Gaza, the Gaza girl whose face was ripped off by an Israeli missile strike, Little Gaza inside the fight for the West Bank, and many others. But let me tell you what I didn't see. I didn't see a single video about the biggest conflict in the Middle East, the war in Yemen. How is it possible that made dozens of videos of Israel, but not even one about Yemen, a humanitarian catastrophe and the deadliest war in the region? How big? 10 times more casualties than the war in Gaza. But not a war. The Guardians is obsessed with Israel. And by the way, it is not just the Guardians that obsessed with Israel. Their audience seems obsessed too. The anti-Israel videos get the most views by far. This video, which was uploaded just 2 weeks ago, already has over 2 million views. The next one in the series, updated only 2 days ago, has hundreds of thousands. Their other videos, barely a tenth of that. As the saying goes, no juice, no views. No views, no money. I also didn't see a single video criticizing anything about Muslim societies. I live far from England, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you just have a scandal involve Pakistani men and young girls? And weren't there some Islamist terror attack too, targeting girls who just wanted to dance? The Guardian leans left, so we would expect at least something about women's rights or LGBTQ rights in Muslim countries. If one of the reporters can go to Gaza and make a video series criticizing Israel, surely he can cross into Egypt, a country of 100 million, where more than 80% of women have their cut off to prevent them enjoying. This is sick, but reporting about it doesn't fit the Guardian's agenda. And you don't need to go that far. About 50% of Muslims in the UK believe homosexuality should be illegal. Strange that The Guardian doesn't have an opinion on that. The last note before we dive into the actual video, The Guardian chose a strong title, God Gave Us Israel, all of it. That's a powerful framing. And sure, there are a few million Jews around the world who believe God gave them a tiny piece of the Middle East. I don't usually talk God in my videos. Everyone has their own God, and anyone can claim whatever they want in God's name. I've been a tour guide in Jerusalem for over 10 years. I've heard it all. What can't be denied is that Jews have a 3,000-year-old connection to Jerusalem. It was the capital of the Jewish people about 1,500 years before Islam even existed. That's not religion, it's history and archaeology. And if the Guardian wants a really powerful title, how about God gave us, Muslims, the entire world? Hundreds of millions of Muslims, including many in Britain, believe that Islamic law, Sharia, should rule the world. But the Guardian won't tell you that. Drawn in 1949 to separate Israel from the West Bank and Gaza, it was seen as the boundaries of a possible two-state solution. Matthew says, drawn in 1949 to separate Israel from the West Bank and Gaza. Who drew it? God drew the Green Line? If you are doing a whole series on the Green Line, maybe spend a second explaining how it was actually created. Let me fill in what Matthew didn't forget. He's just hiding it. And if he truly didn't know this after 20 years, that's even worse. The Green Line was the armistice between Israel and Jordan drawn in 1949 after Israel's War of Independence. That war began after the UN decided to partition British Mandatory Palestine into a Jewish and an Arab state. Neither sides loved the idea, but the Jews accepted and compromised. The Arab rejected it and launched a war to exterminate the Jews. The strongest army at the time, Jordan's. You might think, Jordan, they are weak, but their army was trained, funded, armed, and commanded by the British. Don't believe me? Look up Colonel John Bagot Gloob. He led Jordan's army in 1948. And here is what most people don't know. Jordan was a colonial state created by Britain. The British told a tribe from Western Saudi Arabia, help us fight the Ottomans and we will give you a country. That's Jordan. And during the war, Britain helped Jordan fight Israel. So if the Green Line was seen as the boundaries of a possible two-state solution, then why wasn't a Palestinian state created between 1948 and 1967? The Arabs had 19 years to build one. Why didn't they? Because the Arab goal was never a Palestinian state alongside Israel, but an Arab state instead of Israel. Matthew hides that too, and he doesn't ask the Arabs any tough questions. And for a brief moment in this entire video, the truth actually came out, spoken by an Orthodox Jewish woman. How can you have your next door neighbor saying, I want to have a safe house right next door to you, and also I want to kill you and I want to drive you into the sea? 10 seconds of pure truth. Arabs have never accepted Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel, no matter how big or small. That's why they've always said no. Before the Green Line, after the Green Line, before 48, after 67. Where were the top 3 Arab leaders from Mandatory Palestine in the early 1940s? In Nazi Germany, they called for the extermination of the Jews in the land of Israel and across the Arab world. That was before the partition plan. For most of those I asked, the Green Line no longer exists in Jerusalem and hasn't for a long time. In many ways, the erasure of the Green Line began in 1967, when Israel occupied the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, including here in East Jerusalem. So why are the evil Israelis erasing the Green Line? Because the Green Line marks the ethnic cleansing of Jews from the old city of Jerusalem and the denial of Jews' access to their holiest site. In 1880, more than half of the residents of the old city were Jewish. But during a series of pogroms while the British ruled the land, Arab attacked Jews in 1920, 21, 29, and again during the Arab Revolt from 36 to 39. Many Jews were forced to flee. The worst came in 1948, when the old city fell to the Jordanian army under British command. Jews were expelled. After the war, Jews weren't allowed to visit the Western Wall or the Temple Mount. Imagine if Muslims were banned from Mecca. How would they feel? In 1967, Jordan attacked Israel and lost. Israel liberated Jerusalem. So no, we're not giving the holiest place in Judaism back to those who ethnically cleansed us from it and denied us access. And this wasn't the only place it happened. In Hebron, the second holiest site in Judaism, Arabs did the same in 1929. And here is the twist. Israel didn't take revenge. We didn't do to the Arabs what they did to us. Today, Muslims pray freely on the Temple Mount. Arab residents of Jerusalem move around the city freely. But I, as a Jew, can't walk safely in some Arab neighborhoods of East Jerusalem. I will get stoned. For Palestinians, many of whom were displaced from Western Jerusalem during the creation of Israel in 1948, the ongoing occupation is a painful reminder of the loss of their most important city. When did they lose Jerusalem? First of all, there are hundreds of thousands of Arabs in Jerusalem today. Jews didn't expel them after the Six-Day War. Again, we didn't do to them what they did to us. Second, when was Jerusalem ever Palestinian? I'm a tour guide. I know the history. The Ottomans, the Turks, ruled Jerusalem. The Crusaders ruled it. Jews ruled it. And Jews are the ones who made Jerusalem into Jerusalem. When exactly was it the capital of the Palestinian kingdom? Give me a year. give me the name of a Palestinian king who ruled from Jerusalem. And about those who fled, were expelled, or left Jerusalem in 1948, here is something important. Matthew, please sit down. This might shake your worldview. If you start a war and you lose, you are not the victim. I know, shocking. Throughout the video, Matthew keeps repeating the same theme. The Jews are irrational, and the Arabs of East Jerusalem are helpless victims. But the lowest point of the video is when he titles a segment, Destroying the Al-Aqsa Mosque to Build the Third Temple. He interviews an Orthodox Jewish woman who says the Third Temple will be built where the Dome of the Rock now stands. Here is the context he doesn't give. Every believing Jew accepts the Bible, believes in the coming of the Messiah, resurrection of the dead, and the rebuilding of the temple. This idea of the temple being rebuilt is found in the Bible, over 1,000 years before Islam even existed, 1,000 years before the Dome of the Rock was built. In the book of Isaiah it says, "In the last days the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established, and all nations will stream to it. Many people will come and say, 'The law will go out from Zion, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem.' He will judge between the nations and will settle disputes for many people. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nations will not take up swords against nation, nor will they train for war anymore." Yes, Jews have a messianic vision involving the rebuilding of the temple. Sounds like a pretty peaceful vision, to be honest. And Christians have their own messianic beliefs. Jesus returning, a great war. So does Islam. Everyone believes they will win in the end. But to throw that into a video about the Green Line, that's manipulation. Only very few Jews actually want to destroy the Dome of the Rock. The majority of religious Jews believe the temple will appear when the Messiah comes. And by the way, do you know who's actually destroying the Temple Mount? The Waqf, the Islamic religious authorities. About 20 years ago, they built a giant mosque up there and brought in bulldozers and trucks that deliberately destroyed 2,000 years of Jewish history. One of the worst archaeological crimes in history. But Matthew and The Guardian won't talk about that because it doesn't fit the narrative of the Palestinians as victims. And do you know who actually discriminates on the Temple Mount? Muslims. Hello? With open until 2?
No, not here at first. It's from the West Wall.
Okay.
But in 5 minutes, it's
Close. And I cannot enter here? Here on Muslims? There are 10 gates to the Temple Mount. Muslims can enter freely from none of them at any time. Non-Muslims? One gate, a few hours a day, and not every day. Imagine a World Heritage Site in London or Manchester or Wisconsin or Liverpool, where Christians could enter freely, but Muslims only from one gate and with restrictions. There would be outrage. The left would scream racism, discrimination. But when it is Jews and Christians restricted from the Temple Mount, silence from Matthew and The Guardian. This series from The Guardian, Along the Green Line, will likely have more episodes. Not because it is good, but because, as we said, if you trash the Jews, you get views. And most likely, I will have to debunk those too. So please subscribe and share this video. As always, you will find the link to the original video below. Thank you to all my supporters. Because of you, I'm able to post more videos more often. See you in the next one. Yalla bye.